Hey guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how Gesaffelstein made Reset. Here's what we're going to be making. So two things before we dive in. The first thing is that since this is a remake, I'm going to be giving away the project file and samples from this video for free in the description and the MIDI and all of that. So if you want to play around with this, or if you just hear a sound you like that you want to play around with on your own, it's all down there. You can go pick that up. And then the second thing here is that I want to say this isn't meant to be necessarily an exact recreation. Like, certain things are a lot closer than others. But what I will say is more, I'm trying to just show you like the technique behind it and like how you can implement it into your own thing. And so making a pretty approximate recreation that isn't perfect is really good for this, because again, it allows me to just kind of show you the techniques without it just being like a direct clone. So yeah, so the first thing that we've got going on here is this little two bass stab thing. Sounds like this. So these are the two little bass stabs you hear in the track. They're kind of playing over the main bass. The thing about this track is, and I'll talk about this more when I get to the bass, but in these parts, the bass is really just doing this the whole time through. So having these kind of things that come in and add some sort of like accentuation to that, I feel like it's kind of a nice element. So the way that I made the first one here was using analog. I actually made these both using analog. We've got a square wave, and then I've also got a saw wave, which is an octave down from the square wave. Those are going into a low-pass filter, which has this envelope on it for the sort of pluck sound. And then after that, I just have a bit of compression. I'm just side-chaining it to the kick, and then I've got an EQ8 cutting out the low end. And then on the second one, what we've got here is, like I said, this is also made with analog, so we've got a saw wave and a square wave again, but they are in the same octave this time. You can also see on the square wave I played with the pulse width just a little tiny bit to get it, a little bit closer. And then, yeah, so those are going into this low-pass filter, which has a bit of resonance. You can kind of hear that, how juicy that sounds. Yeah, pretty straightforward there. It's just got a simple kind of envelope on it. So then after that, I've got a bit of chorus to give it some stereo width. In the original track, I heard this. It really makes it sound big because this is sort of coming in out of nowhere in the middle of the groove here. So having it kind of be split and be a lot more stereo really helps to make it kind of stand out. So then after that, I've got a little bit of saturation, just kind of beefing it up. And then finally, just a compressor side chaining it to the kick and an EQ8 cutting out the low end. So then the next sound that we've got here is this little woo sample. It sounds like this. So this was meant to be kind of similar to the little like voice. I guess it's like I'm not sure exactly what it is, but you hear it in the original track. It plays like right on the one. Just like that, with a little bit of delay. And so this kind of goes back to what I was saying, where it's like, we can't get it exactly the same because, like, truth be told, I don't have the same sample that he used. There's, like, even if it's something from a sample pack that I would be able to get to, it's just very unlikely that anybody would ever just find it, or would be able to find it very easily. Like, there are so many different sources that he could have taken the sample from. So I'm more just trying to show you the technique here. So the technique behind this basically is that it's like a little vocal stab like this one. I'll show you what this sounds like with no processing. Yeah, like something like that. And then what I did was I pitched it up a bunch. You can see I pitched it up +8. And then what I did is I gave it a bit of distortion. So that's what kind of, you can hear like that the pitch kind of goes up with this sample. Like it's like, whoa, like that. And so this overdrive kind of makes it sound more like synthy. And you can hear just kind of like a little bit more saturated. I think it sounds pretty nice on there. Then after that, I've got an EQ8 cutting out the low end because, yeah, there was quite a bit of low end with that distortion. And then finally, I just have this echo doing eighth notes. Pretty simple, but I was trying to recreate the delay from the original. So then the next thing that we have here is this little bell lead thing, which sounds like this. So the way that I made this was by taking this little bell one-shot. I think it was from some old sampler or something like that. Any kind of bell sound will work for this. It's just kind of gotta be, yeah, like one with that sort of like very smooth, kind of like weird timbre to it. And then what I did was I just brought it into a simpler here. And that's pretty much all I did. There's a bit of effects as well. So after that, we've got a little bit of auto pan. You can see I have the phase all the way down, so it's just affecting the volume. This is just giving it a little bit of weird like volume fluctuation. I'm not sure exactly how he did this in the original, but I noticed like the volume on this sound is kind of like going in and out. It's very subtle. You can see I only have the amount like 53%, but this is my way of recreating that. I just have a pretty fast like auto pan. There's without it. And then with. So it kind of makes this thing sound like it's like breaking up a lot and like sort of falling apart. I think it sounds cool, so I put it in there. Then after that, I have this OTT. So if you don't know, OTT is actually a preset for Ableton's Multiband Dynamics. It's a very famous one. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, it's right there. It stands for over the top. And essentially, it's just some really over the top multiband compression that just brings everything out that's like quieter than sort of like the main things that you're hearing in your sound, if that makes any sense. And yeah, like I said, just really pulls that up in the mix and makes it a lot more powerful. So I use this here. I have the amount on like 51%. It's just kind of like adding a little bit more grit to the sound. Makes it a little bit more like blown out sounding. Yeah, pretty simple there. Then after that, I just have a bit of reverb for some space. And then I've got this auto filter cutting at the high end, because you can hear there's some like very high end in this, which in the original, the bell was like very dark sounding, so I cut that out. And then finally, we just have a compressor side chaining into the kick. Now for the notes on this one, it's playing this kind of simple pattern. It's just going G sharp, G, G sharp, and then C. Pretty straightforward. It's just kind of like a cool, like, I guess you would call it like a trap kind of bell pattern. I feel like that's what he was going for with the whole like reference to like hip hop in this track. You know, like something you would hear in like a Migos type beat or something like that. So the next thing we have here is the bass, which sounds like this. And so the bass has two layers. We have this Reese bass, and then this little sub. And yeah, so basically what I have is I have the Reese bass as sort of like the mid-range slash low mids bass, and then the sub, as you can imagine, a sub bass. So for the Reese bass, what we got is I made this with Operator. It's just two saw waves, no FM going on. I have this FM algorithm where they're just playing side by side. And yeah, like I said, it's two saw waves. I've got the second one detuned a little bit, and they're going into a low pass filter. Pretty standard Reese bass kind of sound. After that, I've got a little bit of chorus. You can see the dry wet is pretty low, so it's just adding a little bit of stereo width to the sound. I didn't want it to be too much because it can get kind of weird with the bass frequencies. But in this case, yeah, just a little bit goes a long way. Then after that, I've just got a compressor, side chaining it to the kick, and then finally an EQ8 cutting out the low end to make room for the sub. So then on the sub, what we've got here is actually very simple. I've just made a sine wave in Operator, and then I use a low pass filter because sine waves, even when they're like just the fundamental harmonic, there's still like a little bit of high end in there, particularly with this note that I was playing, like with B. You can't really play it that low because it's gonna sound kind of like it's not really gonna work. Like B, the lowest, this is pretty much the lowest B that you can play and still have it sound like musical. So what I did to combat this, to make this just be mostly in the high end, or in the low end, excuse me, was I just took this low pass filter and cut off, yeah, like the very high highs there. And then you can hear after that I have the saturator, so it's just giving it a bit more like boost, I guess. Like I know with this sound it's not really doing a whole lot, but in the original what I heard was mostly like there's something like this in the background, and what's happening is there's the Reese bass on top of it that you hear, and even that is like kind of in the background, but then there's like this low, like just very subby, like big bass underneath that, and so that's why I have this in here. So yeah, like I said, then after that saturator, I just have a compressor, side chaining it to the kick, and that's pretty much it for the basses. I'll show you the note that it's playing as well. Like I said, it's playing B. They're just kind of playing that one long droning note. I guess that's kind of the vibe of this track. And yeah, so then the next thing that we have here is this little drone, which sounds like this. So this was another thing that I heard in the track that I know isn't exact, but this is a very, very good technique, so I wanted to show it. So basically what we have here is I have this thing, it's like a square wave, but then I played around with the harmonics a little bit, an Operator, and then you can see I have a low pass filter on that, and then what we've got going on here is I have this LFO on the filter and then on the pitch, and it's just moving it ever so slightly. And you can hear it's just playing like a C throughout the track. And what this does is it gives you so much like background like vibe. Like it kind of gives it like that, some kind of like ominous sort of like distant sound in the background that just sounds really good layered underneath all these things. It really helps add to the vibe of the track. So after operator there, I've just got a bit of saturation. You can see I've played around the analog clip a little bit, and I've got the drive up. And yeah, then after that, I just have a bit of reverb. And then I have this EQ8 doing like a bandpass filter sort of shape. I like to use EQ for this just to sort of make it a little bit simpler. Like, it's just a little bit easier for me to control it this way. And yeah, then after that, I have a Haas effect on there. So if you don't know what the Haas effect is, I'll briefly explain it. Basically, it just makes your sounds really wide and stereo. What you're doing is you're basically just splitting your signal into the left and right signal, and then you just delay one of them forward ever so slightly. So it gives you a big stereo image essentially, because you're hearing the same thing, but at slightly different times in each ear. And yeah, that's kind of just how it works. So the way that I did this is really simple. I just have a right chain in here and then a left chain, and then on the left chain I've got this simple delay, which is set like this. And yeah, that's really what's doing it. In the original, this was like a really wide sound, so I wanted to have something to make it like really wide and stereo. So after that, I just have a compressor, side chaining it to the kick, and that is it for the drum. So then the next thing that I have here, and the last of the synths, is this little counter melody, which sounds like this. So the way that I made this is it's basically just playing these really simple 3 notes, 4 notes, I guess if you count this one, but that's a repeat of the first note. It's really simple. This comes in the original a bunch. And basically, yeah, those are the notes. And then the way that I made the sound was using analog. So we've got 2 saw waves going into a low-pass filter. And then I've got a bit of vibrato. Pretty simple there. Then after that, we have a bit of echo for some space. And then some reverb for some space as well. This has to be a really spacey sound for it to work. Like, to get that really nice, smooth kind of synth like this, like I said, it's got to be kind of spacey. So I definitely wanted to have the echo and the reverb there, sort of play that up. And then after that, I just have a compressor side chaining it to the kick, and that's really it for that counter melody. It's pretty simple. So then the next thing I will show you here is the drums, and the drums all together sound like this. So I'll start with the kick. This is a kick. I tried to get it as close to the original as I could. You can see it's really got like no processing on here. With this kind of kick, it's really just more about getting a nice, like really punchy sample and then just mixing it in a way that really cuts through. Like, you don't want to have it, have a bunch of saturation or a bunch of compression or even EQ, really. Like, you just want to get a nice, short, punchy kick like this. And then, like I said, it's all in the way that you mix it in the track with the levels. Like, if you get it punching through really, really hard, then it will punch through. You don't really need to do a lot of processing with this one. So the next thing that we have here are these hi-hats, which sound like this. So I've got 2 hi-hats here. I've got this one, and then this one. So this first one here is sort of like an open hi-hat, and then the second one is like a closed hi-hat. So on the open hi-hat, basically it's just like an 808 open hi-hat. That's why it's called 808 hi-hat 1. And yeah, it's just playing in here. It's kind of like accentuating the groove, and then I have it side chained to the kick. And then on the second one, it's actually very small. You can hear there's also an 808 hi-hat. What I've done is I've just taken it in here and used that volume envelope to make it like a little bit smaller. And so in the original, there's a hi-hat like this. It just kind of plays on this pattern following the kick. And yeah, it's just sort of adding to that. It's really small, really simple. It's just accentuating the rest of the groove. So then the last thing with the drums I have here is the clap/snare, which sounds like this. So this is 3 layers. We have this little Foley clap. This one, sort of like a drum machine clap, and then this 808 snare. So basically, these are all 3 doing different things. So I'll talk about the main clap first, which is this one. I guess it's just kind of like a standard kind of like house techno style like drum machine clap. Like I said, it's just in here. And then the only real note to make about this is you can see the pattern's a little bit different from the snare and the little Foley clap. So this clap also plays like some little fill kind of things like over here in the original. So definitely like, yeah, just something to keep note of there. This really adds a lot to the beat and makes a lot of nice kind of like just more of an interesting groove, you know? So that's the main clap. Then underneath that, what we have and what was in the original is this little Foley clap. So we have like this little thing. And yeah, just like a little Foley sound. And what it does is it kind of just like makes a smoother transition into the clap. Like you can hear that little thing at the start there. Kind of like goes into the clap, and then it adds a bit of texture to the sound as well. So this is something I heard in the original that I think is definitely pretty important. Again, it really helps to bring the clap to life. Then the last layer, like I said, is just this little 808 snare. So that's just kind of under there for punch. Again, something I heard in the original was how he layered together this 808 snare, and then the claps to just kind of give it like more depth and more punch. So that's pretty much it for this one. I wanted to show you guys some techniques I picked up on listening to Reset, and hopefully this helped you and quenched your thirst for knowing how to produce like Gesaffel's Gene. So thanks again, everybody. This is going to be it for today, guys. Make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments, and make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Once again, you get the project file and all the samples and stuff from this video for free in the description, so make sure to pick that up and check it out. And yeah, thank you again, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another tutorial.